Hello, everyone. Welcome to the DevRel podcast, where we weekly bring you the latest news in tech, DevRel, and also the top DevRels in the industry. Today, with me, I have Kevin Blanco. Thanks for being here, and also Bia. Kevin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, thanks for asking. The sun shines whenever I talk to you, Danny, and that's something good.
Hey, that's a good fact. Side note, I am in Des Moines, Iowa, and dude, it's snowing crazily today, and yesterday was super sunny. So I hope it remains sunny after this
Yeah,
conversation.
hopefully it comes out because today is very sunny for me.
That's awesome. Bia, how are you?
Great, thank you for asking. Actually, right now I'm in Rio, so it's
Oh,
very sunny here, very hot because we just started spring over here, spring autumn, but it feels like summer yet. So I think autumn is still yet to come.
Probably yes.
thinking about where you are at and from at, Kev. Why don't you share with our audience, where DevRel enthusiasts, where you from, where you based, and a little bit more around your background. I would love to get like a full walkthrough on your story. You're passionate for storytelling, filmmaking, and also merging that uh, to the DevRel world and sharing big stories and great educational paths and content to onboard developers.
Yeah, totally. All right, let me see. How can I try to not spend 1 hour talking about this? I'm based in San Jose, Costa Rica. I was born here in Costa Rica.
Nice.
Um, and but I tend to travel a lot for work. I might just to give some background. I come from a very humble family, and I always saw computers like something that I couldn't have, because we were very poor. We didn't have the ability to have a computer back then when I was a kid. And also, I shared the room with my brother. I have a brother and a sister, so I shared the same room with him. He is a bit older than me, like maybe 7 years around that. Um, and I remember that we had a TV. That's the only thing we had. And my brother was really into movies. He really liked to watch movies. So since we spent the room together and I was the younger, I didn't have the chance to decide what to watch on the TV.
Okay.
So, and my brother was really into movies, so I was exposed to a lot of film when I was a kid. And I found really interesting about how not only how films were made, but also how could I make my own movie? Like how the hell can I make something like that happen? I always fascinated about how can I do something, not only how it works, but also how can I do that. And so when I got into high school, I finished my standard high school, and I said, what do I want to study? And I said it has to be related to computers because I saw them like super away from me, like I couldn't have them. So I started studying in computer science. I really loved it. I was super passionate about it. I got my computer science degree and I started to work on a digital agency, a very small shop here in Costa Rica. They were doing mostly websites at that moment with jQuery, with PHP and Drupal. Drupal is a content management system, it's open source. And I remember when they had the interview, they told me, we are trying to get a junior person, somebody who, will learn with us because we're a small agency. You will be our first outsider hire. They have some friends and family, but I was the first outsider they were looking to hire, like a junior person. And the idea is that you learn everything that you can, but also since we use a lot of Drupal, which is an open source content management system, we like to contribute back. So in my first job, I didn't know anything about communities. I didn't know anything about open source or anything like that. So they told me, if you're not obligated, but if we hire you, we would like you to join us contributing back to the open source community in Drupal and to the Drupal core. So I said yes because I needed a job. And that was amazing. That was like I made a click with the Drupal community. It was amazing for me to see how amazing people, CTOs, technical leaders, like people who knew a lot, wouldn't have any trouble to sit down with me on a meetup or in a Drupal camp and just explain things to me. I was very junior. I didn't know much about Drupal, and I got involved with the Drupal community. So after my first year working in this agency, I started to contribute back. I started to go to presentations and explain a bit of what I learned. Um, and that's how I got my first job and involved with the community. And ever since then, both things have been going in parallel. um, I got a new job and I started to contribute to the community involved in whatever technologies I'm working. So I spent my first 5 to 6 years working in Drupal and web technologies. Then I switched only to front end. I started to work with an agency in Seattle called Pop Agency, and they had amazing clients. I remember I used to work with Nintendo, Pokemon, Microsoft, Google, and many of these companies. And I only focus on front end development, so I got involved a lot in the JavaScript community. And then I made another switch in my career, and I started to work a lot in cloud computing, focus on Google Cloud as a architect. I worked a lot with Kubernetes and Google Cloud ecosystems, and so again, I started to work with the community in whatever I was working on because I found passion about it, and the community gave me so much that I always wanted to give back to the community. So in parallel, at some point in my life, when I had stability, it means in economic stability, and I got married, and my wife, she's a photographer, and I always had this passion about film, but I never really said, let's make it happen. But since I married her and she really gave me the impulse and say, why don't you do it? Now we have stability, you have a career, you have a job, you're well known in that area. So I joined the film school and I started to focus a lot on film with the support of my wife. And I got my degree. I started to work with amazing script writers. I paid some internships in some programs in different countries, and I really got into film and I really loved it, and I think I'm really good at it. And so I never knew I could combine these two together. I was just like, this is just a hobby, this is my career, this is just a hobby. And then I started to do short films by myself, some short films I have on my own YouTube. They were pretty shitty at the beginning, to be honest. They were very bad. But if that's normally the case, whenever you start in something, you're gonna suck. But you have to start, because if you don't spend a lot of time failing and sucking at something, you won't be good. And that's the way of everything in life. Um, and so at some point 2 years ago, I started to notice that there is actually a job that combines everything that I love, working with communities, using technology, and also involve video content production. So I applied for it, and fortunately, they hired me. It was synergy ever since we got our first conversation together. They loved what I do. They loved the way I communicate things, how I teach people, how I embrace the use of technology to make a change in people's life. And that's a very long story. Make it short. That's me, and we can talk more about how I also got my pilot license, my private pilot, and other things. But in general terms, everything I like, I try to understand how it works, and then I try to make it myself. It's gonna fail at the beginning. It's gonna be very bad a bit at the beginning, but at some point you're gonna see a turnaround, and you're gonna see the magic happening. And I think that's what I've seen in multiple phases of my career in my life.
That's a great, great story. Thanks for sharing it for us. One of the questions I do have for you, even when going through all that journey in tech, working with different technologies, different frameworks, and then hopping into film school, even in terms of the cultures of like a technical, non-technical course and potential career paths, what do you think was the hardest for you in terms of like maybe understanding people, relating to people, kind of like getting out of the developer mindset to actually understand like how to create good films and actually relate to people's emotions, not only like a recipe tutorial and all that, you know?
Yeah. Uh, I will say that most of the things that I have found kind of hard are not technical. Technical things can be learned very easily, and we live in a moment where you can learn everything you want. Literally, the knowledge is out there. It's just to you to be consistent and take the time to learn something and be consistent about it. The most complicated things is communicating what you know, and being able to people to understand it, like communication and embracing the way you communicate and you articulate the things you have to say the best way to be able to generate a feeling in somebody. It's hard because you could explain how something works, but spark creativity and spark some feeling in people's heart is really hard. And obviously being able to work with people is also some a soft skill that you need, but it's kind of hard. You don't see a course or a training on YouTube, hey, how to work with people, and once you end it, that's it, you know how to work with people. That's not the way it works. Like, you could take some courses about JavaScript, and at the end you will know something about JavaScript and you can start doing it. It's not the same way with people. People are kind of different, and you have to find what motivates people. The other thing is, you have to understand it's never about you. People don't care about your story. People don't care about what you have to say. They care about their story and how you can match your own story with their and start generating feelings. And people ask me, like, when I have some of the interviews, for being someone from outside the United States, or these important countries, like Costa Rica is a very small country, not a lot of people know about it. So how the heck did it get to live in Canada and have companies from Canada, from the United States, from Europe to hire me, and find myself interesting? And it's always about generating interest. And again, going back to the communication thing, it's really important that you work out your communication skills. Because it has been everything about when we had a conversation, how we match ourselves, how they get along with me, and it had nothing to do with the technical stuff. I know there are multiple people out there who are better than me in multiple areas that I work, and that's true. There's always someone better or worse at what you do. But why would a company or a client or somebody choose you? Why some audience choose what I'm telling as a DevRel? Or why would a company be interested in my services? Or why would somebody watch my movie? It's sometimes never about the technical stuff. It's about what are you generating in their heart and in their minds, and say, oh, I like that. That resonates with what I feel. That's probably resonates with something that I have in my own memory, and that's normally how people work. So yeah, I would say that at the end, the hardest part for me has been always um, the communication thing, and I think from my standpoint, technical stuff, it's easy to learn.
Fair. Damn, that's a solid response right there. And even knowing that you are from Costa Rica and you come just like us from a Latino background, and let's say a non-native US speaker and non-native US communicator,
Right.
how was how hard it was for you to actually get on the path of getting authority enough to be hired in a US or international company? Do you feel like there were any type of blockers? How was that for you, and how did you actually work on getting that authority and making a name out of yourself, to actually get the roles in the position that you are at? Because I know you're working at SMF, you also are a Google developer expert. So how was that path for you?
Uh, yes. Well, first of all, we cannot deny there is racism in the world. We cannot deny that people can choose, their own country fellows versus other countries' people. I mean, after you admit that stuff and don't try to deny it, then you can try to work after that. So the first thing I knew is I had to work my English level so I could have a conversation with somebody, and not only a conversation when it comes like with the fluid English, but also like understand the cultural stuff. When I had my first job, it was only with local companies, so I never talk in English. I never, relate with people in the United States or Canada or North America in general. But then I got my second job, and it was with a company in Texas, and they hired me remotely, and I started to work with a few amazing people in Texas. And man, their accent was so hard. Like literally, I couldn't understand anything on the first meeting. I remember when they had the interview, the HR guy was super friendly. He talked slow, and then now you're gonna be under this technical lead, and he's in Texas. And I remember the first call. Hey man, how's it going, Gavin? I was talking about it, and I couldn't understand anything. And I remember that what I said is, "Can you send me an email everything you just said so I can have like a backup?" It was so hard for me, and even though I had my my training in English and I had my title, that never works. You go to an English course and people are going to speak so slow. They're not going to say anything cultural. And I was like, man, I couldn't understand anything he said. So my first 6 months in this company was just me training my ear. And I remember being on meetings with my eyes closed in one ear, my finger in one ear, just trying to listen what this guy is saying, and it was so hard. And I started to watch YouTube movies about the Texas accent because he was super Texan. Um, but he was friendly, so that was good. But yes, I have had people who are very racist and people who are very, um, you know, um, offensive. I remember I worked with a French guy; he was super offensive. But the way I take things, I don't take them personal. Honestly, if somebody have a problem with me, I try to find the matching point. If we have to get along just for work, that's fine. Let's not be friends. Let's just do our work and try to get the best out of that. Um, but yeah, it is hard. If you're Latino, like that, it's gonna be hard. At some point, somebody's gonna hurt your feelings, and the faster you move on, the faster you will progress in life. The second thing I will say is, and this is from a book that I read that changed my mind and changed my life, which is the laws of power. They're from Robert Greene.
Is
I think
that
that's
is
the name.
that the 48 laws of
Yeah,
power?
40-year laws of
Yeah, I
power.
love the book. Yeah.
Yeah, there is this chapter or this law called that you should not wait for coronation. The greatest emperors crown themselves. And what I mean by that is that you shouldn't be like, you shouldn't have ego or just say, I'm the best on this and not prove it. Like, you have to work your stuff, but also you have to understand how much you value. Like, nobody's going to come and say, hey, here's Kevin. He's from Costa Rica, and we're going to bring him to Canada and he's going to work with us and we're going to be friendly. Like, nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to come and save your ass. You have to coronate yourself and say, I am good at this. I have this value. And if you don't value yourself, if you don't give yourself the value you have, nobody's going to do it. That's the way it is. So every time I started to work on a company, and it's funny because some companies I started to work, I changed completely the technologies or the stuff I was working. So I was really scared, but also said, I know what I'm worth. I'm going to start again from the back, from very bottom. I had this Drupal background, and when I changed to this agency that I was telling you was just front end, they were using Backbone JS. I never knew anything about Backbone. They were using Canvas to do animations, 2D animations, and other frameworks I never worked with. But they hired me. They trust me for some reason. Again, it's probably because the conversation we had, not because I knew everything they had on the rest on the position. But I said, I understand that I have a good value, and people see that, and because they see that, it's because I expose myself, and I'm not lying. That's really important. Don't be a liar. Just say what you're worth. Coronate yourself. If you are good at something, coronate yourself. Put the crown. You're really valuable, and once you do that, people will start to see your value. But if you just like shy and you don't show what you value, people are not going to value you because if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it. So yeah, long story short, I have had a rough path. If you're a Latino, you're going to have a rough path, but the faster you kind of overcome that and try to work hard, the faster people will see your value.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Kevin. Since we all from a Latin perspective, it's so hard to have big conversations in English as a learner, as a
Right.
beginner. And I would love to hear more about how did you build your personal audience while you were learning English. I mean, you said to us that you were into filming, and how does this video content helped you to build your personal audience?
Yes, definitely. So one of the key things I learned from film production, and I had a great teacher in script writing. He's actually a great script writer. He has won multiple films in Venice and many other famous film festivals. And I remember one thing he said. That was this was the first class we had with him, and he just come to the class and say, "Hey, I'd like to know who you are." He asked me, "Hey, who you are?" And I'm like, "I'm Kevin." I didn't ask for your name, like who you are. And I was like, "Okay, I I don't know. I'm from Coronado, Costa Rica. No, I didn't ask your location. Ask who you are." And he was the same way. Everything that I said, I don't know, man. I have, I don't know how many years old I was at that moment. I didn't ask for your age, he said. So right after he answered the same way, like 10 of those questions, I was speechless. Like I couldn't say, I don't know what to say. And what he said is, whatever you're going to say now probably is going to start saying what you really are, and people are going to find interesting. So he told me, tell me something weird about you. Tell me something that we all don't know. And I was like, man, I don't know what to say. And the only thing could come to my mind is, hey, I hate coming out of the shower and not like getting super clean out of it. Like my wife likes to go out of the shower and still be wet and go to the bed. I hate that. One thing I cannot do is just take a shower and still be wet. I have to be completely dry before I go out of the bathroom. And he said, there you go. That's something that speaks about Kevin. Not your name, not who you are in terms of your age, your location, or what do you like. Tell me something weird about yourself or something that is very unique to you. And that's the stuff that you have to work on a character and people will find interesting, because maybe some people will say, as they watch this conversation, I mean, they hear this conversation or watch this video, they will say, I'm like Kevin. I don't like to go out of the shower being wet. And so people will say, I'm not like Kevin. I'm like Kevin's wife. I like to get out of the shower and maybe go to bed and still be wet, maybe turn on the TV. But people will take sides. For sure, they will take sides. And that's where a story starts. And that was super interesting at that moment. That kind of opened my mind. It was like nobody cares about who I am or what I have done. They just care about how stuff that I am are going to match their own self. And that's interesting because I always try to bring this into conversation, is try to see this is spark that I had at that moment when this teacher of mine in script writing started to ask those questions. And it's funny, he started to do the same with all my fellow students in that room, and it was amazing how we started to click as students. We were in another classes, and we never really get to know each other. We were, I just knew there were those people names, where they live, who they were, but we never really clicked. And after that small 40 minutes class, we all connected to each other because he asked the same questions to everyone. And when he got down to the very deep, we started to see things that are actually ourselves, and we started to match, and we laughed and everything. So it's funny. I think that was one of the things that changed my life when it comes to filmmaking and script writing, which I try to apply to my day to day as a DevRel, which is you have to get down to the very nitty gritty to understand people's stories and how you can match their story. And from there, you can tell them, all right, now that we have something in common, now that I know you, this is something that probably can help you in your journey, that can help you solve your problems because it helped me. And since we match our stories, whether he empathized with me because he loves to be completely dry after the shower or not, that's fine. I don't really care if he does or not. But we kind of match in something, and now we're able to have a conversation. If you don't find something to match with people before you tell your story, it's just gonna be there's just gonna be, oh, this guy talking about his story again, so boring. No, people don't care about your story. People care about their story and how it matches your story. So I think that's something that just came to my mind, and yeah, that's probably the biggest lesson I had.
That's amazing, and I absolutely love that. So finding a point of relatability,
Hmm.
English, hard English for there,
Yeah.
guys. Relatability is really important for our video content, and I would say for content in general, right? So even from my own perspective, understanding who's the persona, who am I talking to, who am I creating the content for. But for you, it has a layer that is even more special because you're not only writing content, you're not only putting audio content out there or kind of like diagrams, videos, or solely documentation, but you're also putting yourself out there in a video and creating storytelling based on the point of relatability and what you're trying to convey to the audience. So, one of the things that just came to my mind, and I would love to understand from you, is that even back in film school, the subjects and all the points that you guys had to create films and scripts for were probably very kind of like broad, capturing piece of people's lives or documenting things. And nowadays, the whole knowledge you are applying to create developer focused content, right? Which is a very unique, specific type of audience, I would say. So, one thing I would love to know and hear from you is even comparing film school and the projects that you did back then to the projects that you are curating and building now in terms of video, how different do you feel it is to create? Is it to create for a non-technical audience and for a developer-focused audience? Is there like any difference in terms of the communication, the voice and tone, how you edit the videos, how you add elements to it? Like how do you see that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think it's very different. And let me give you some examples to support my case. When you're building a film, you're building a character. And one of the first things you do when you're building a character is asking the five whys. That's very famous. The five whys. What motivates that person? And it turns out that when you're defining a user persona as a DevRel, you ask the five whys, or you should be asking the five whys, which is like, why is this person, how do they feel, where are they located, where are they based in terms of their journey. The five whys always answer the question about your user persona. And when it comes to movie script writing, it answers what motivates the actor. And that's something that probably the actor is going to learn once they start acting the role. The first thing is he has to understand who the person is, and the first thing he's going to see is the five whys. Why is this person motivated? That's the first match I have seen, and it's kind of interesting. The other thing is Limbic opening, which is something that I've been sharing on LinkedIn lately. It's funny how the limbic opening, and it's called that way because the limbic part of the brain is the one that is going to be remembering stuff in the long term and engaging with you. Um, it has nothing to do with the how, or it has nothing to do with the what. It has always have to do with the why. And the way you touch the limbic part of the brain is by multiple mediums like props, pictures, humors, curiosity, verbal confirmation, which is kind of bad because if you start saying something repeatedly, people are going to get bored, but sometimes verbal confirmation works. Also analogies or parallel stuff. And at the end, all of those techniques are something that I use in my day to day when I'm trying to present something to a developer, because at the end, I need, again, to engage with the developers in a way that is very visceral, that it has nothing to do with the fact that what I'm going to be telling, because if not, they're going to say the same thing at somebody who is not interested about the movie. It's like, I don't care. I didn't generate any connection with this story whatsoever. I know that probably you and everyone who's watching or hearing this podcast have their favorite movie and also have their worst movie that they didn't even finish, and there's a reason behind it. And at the end, it's probably because it didn't connect with you, and probably for you, the worst movie the favorite movie of somebody else. Like for example, my wife hated La La Land. She hated it from start to the end, and I loved it. And because there was things from that movie that really clicked with me and
Ask
didn't
her,
really
like,
click
how
with.
can you hate it?
How can you?
What?
I was like,
It,
what? Are you bored? um, but there's a whole thing. I asked why, and I was like, I don't really like musicals. I don't, I don't. And I was like fascinated about the color treatment and how every little detail was correctly done, and also like the whole Hollywood context is something that I like. But again, it's the same stuff. There might be some developers out there who really not gonna like your content, and some of them will really love their content. But at the end, you have to find the matching points by trying to engage with them before you tell them what are you telling them, what are you selling them, because at the end, DevRel is kind of a sell point. I don't like to see ourselves as people who sell, but in a way, we're trying to sell some sort of idea of technology that's going to solve their problems. And probably we're always going to have competition, so we have to tell them why are we better than the competition. And people are not going to buy it just because of the stories, like, oh my god, Kevin told a story and that's why I'm going to buy AppSmith and not Retool, which is our competition. No, but it's going to help them tell my story. For example, right now I'm working on a film, and I'm going to be a film for AppSmith. And the whole idea is that the context is a developer who hates working with a project manager, and the project manager comes with late stuff. And we have to work for stakeholders, and we bought pizza for you and all that stuff that every project manager has done in our career. And that's the thing. I know I'm going to click with developers because we all have been there. And then there's going to be this plot twist, and I'm going to say anything else because I'm working on the film. It's a short film, but I know I'm going to resonate with them from that story because we all have been there. We all have been working with project managers who doesn't understand tech, who just hear the stakeholder portion and just come to us, and he doesn't even have clear requirements, and we have to figure out things. And once you figure out things, it wasn't what they really wanted, and you spend a lot of time and effort in working on something with little tech requirements, and then you come out with this beautiful thing and it's not what they wanted. And that's the not a never-ending story when you work in technology. And that's how I'm going to resonate with them.
this little spoiler. I'm already
Yeah.
looking forward to this. Like I can put myself in the same shoes, and even in a project that Bia, Sabrina, and I are building. Also, different spoiler. Sabrina is our manager. Sabrina, if you're watching this, we all hate you.
Sorry about that, Sabrina. Didn't want to put you on the spot. But yeah, at the end, I don't see many differences because humans are people. The people who watch the movies are people. The whatever you're doing business are going to be people. Whomever you work in an office are people. Like literally, if you understand how human brain works and how you can generate feelings, it's going to work 100% for you. If you're in an interview, if you're trying to sell something, you're trying to create a movie, you're trying to build a developer focused content, because we're all humans. And once you understand how you can spark creativity and spark interest on people's brains, sorry, you're going to figure out that it's going to be the same thing. It doesn't matter if you're in a conversation with, maybe you're in a bar and you're trying to hook up with a person that you like. You're not gonna get there just by, this is me, I'm cool, I'm amazing. No, if you want to hook up with a person, you have to try to understand their story and how you can match that story and feel interest about that person. Never do it about yourself. Always do it about the other person, and maybe tell your story while that person is also telling their story. Probably never any relationship is started by somebody coming to the other person who's interested in making a great presentation. This is me, I'm cool. No, just get the hell out of here, weirdo. You always start with some sort of conversation and understanding other people's, and that takes time. I cannot say, a relationship is going to take 1 month or 3 months to settle down and you have your first kiss. No, it's very different from person to person because everybody have their own story, everybody have their past, and maybe they are traumatized, maybe they have previous relationships were very bad, and you have to work out that person to build trust. Is the same, because we're all people. At the end, everything you're doing in your day-to-day is with or for people, and once you understand how it works, you're going to see how amazing it's going to become.
I totally agree. And since we're talking about the developer community itself, I would like to know from your perspective, Kevin, what are some common mistakes that people make when they are trying to build a developer audience, what they can avoid?
Yeah. The first thing is, at least for me, this is a mistake that I made and I'm still do every day. I cannot say for other people, but at least for me, I'm gonna speak from my own mistakes. Is do something very technical, because if you make it very technical and showcase a lot of stuff, you think people are gonna say, "Oh wow, that's cool," and that's not the case. Most of the people will be overwhelmed. So one thing I have to do every day is just go back and try to make things even simpler. um, because once you put something into very simple words, people are going to understand. And again, there's a lot of people out there going to watch your content. Some of them might be very technical and advanced in their career. Some of them might be not. And I have seen that the videos that are uh, shorter, that focuses on a very single thing only, and not try to cover a lot on one single video, and always talk about what you're trying to fix or the problem you're trying to solve first, and then showcase the solution, works the best. Because again, the first videos I made were super technical. It was amazing from a technical standpoint. I built this huge thing in 15 minutes. The videos out there, what's the average video duration? 45 seconds. What? I spent hours making this tutorial, and it's amazing, and I bring these technologies and databases and authentication, and nobody cares. Again, nobody cares. You have to understand what they care. So talk to your community. That's always important. But again, um, try to keep it simple. There's this KISS principle: keep it simple, stupid. That's what you should read about, and try to keep things very, very simple. The other thing is, one thing I learned that helped me a lot is the "so you can." The "so you can" is something that I always try to use on when I'm doing a presentation or a video, which is I'm trying to present a topic or I'm trying to present something to you. Don't just say what you're presenting. So, for example, I'm building a demo for AppSmith, and I'm going to tell them how they can use JavaScript in AppSmith. They can actually write their own JavaScript. So I'm going to explain to them 5 topics: how you can write code quickly, how you can connect data and UI seamlessly, how you can accelerate with templates, and how you can leverage custom libraries like React or AngularJS. That sounds good, but what if I told you the topics in this way? First thing is write code quickly so you can eliminate boilerplate. The second topic is connect your data so you can streamline the integrations to your existing databases. The third is going to be accelerate with templates so you can improve project velocity. The 4 elements is leverage libraries like Angular or React so you can bring your existing code base. The "so you can" is so key because it tells people what they will be able to achieve after they learn what you're explaining to them. So it kind of gives them the hunger of, all right, it's something I want to do. I want to be able to do that, the thing that you're telling me that I will be able to do after you tell me the stuff. So I can do that. So I can eliminate boilerplate, because I hate boilerplate. I hate starting a project and spending 2 days on downloading libraries and setting up my project. Great. So I can bring my own databases because we have existing databases, and so on and so forth. So try to people put on people's side and tell them how they can achieve something with the thing you're going to tell them, and then tell them and actually tell them quickly and fast. Again, people spam of attention right now is like 2 minutes at much. Thank you for TikTok and Instagram. People's span of attention was around 7 minutes before, and now it's 2 minutes, because all of these dopamine shots we got every day with TikTok and stuff like that. But again, keep it simple. Don't make it too technical, and actually split it into small pieces. Tell them how they can, how they will change their lives or their problems after you explain to them what they're going to do. Explain, and they probably stay hooked and they stay longer in your piece of content. I have seen that. I have seen how videos have increased my average view duration from 45 seconds to 3 minutes. And so if the videos have shorter, they give a lot of value. People stay more on their videos, and at the end, it's all about engagement. I really want them to watch the video, not because it's a metric that I am getting view. Obviously, I want not to be fired, but it's also because I know that the content there is valuable. But unfortunately, if I don't put it this way, they won't see it. So that's some of the mistakes I did at the beginning, and that I'm still working on my day to day.
Great, great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, and I feel
True.
like TikTok it's really like getting our attention like really down. And we always see people leaning heavily in complex words and jargons when creating content, video content, and so ever. When seeing people building video content, from your perspective, Kevin, how should people go about building those video strategies? What would you do as a setup for creating a video tutorial or content that you're showing yourself?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is my overall structure is very very small. I have my limbic opening. Again, it can be anything of the things that I said. It's just to try to call the attention. Normally, numbers works really well. If you have facts, the facts works really well. Um, Again, whatever you can tell, if you're working for a company or about a technology and you have numbers that you can back up, you have numbers that people can see. Oh wow, that's impactful. Normally, facts really works when it's a limbic opening. If not, a story or an illustrative analogy or something like that can also work as a limbic opening. 2 minutes at much. Don't spend more than that. Then the context. The context is key. If you miss context, people won't care. Where will they use this feature? Under what circumstances? How do they currently perform this task? That is really important. You have to ask them and obviously answer the question. You say, how do you currently perform this task? Probably you do it this way and this way and this way. Under what circumstances? What have you? Like answer those questions as the context. Right after you have your Limbic opening and people are interested about your piece of content, then you have to give context, and then you will answer those. You will use the context to present the benefits. All right, so you probably do it this way right now under these circumstances. So what if I tell you that there is a better way that is going to reduce the time you're spending, or is going to perform it better, or is going to have less errors than you currently have, or is going to be cheaper? Like what have you? You have to understand which of the circumstances that you tell on the context you're going to improve. Probably not all of them, but focus on one. Cost, time, less errors, what have you. Understand what benefits you're bringing. And I take with those three things like 5 minutes at much. It should be less. It should be like 3 minutes. You you have your limbic opening, then your context, and then you explain your benefit, and then you tell them the show tell show, which is the tell show tell, sorry, which is your key topics. Probably should be no more than three. This is what I'm going to tell you, so you can X, Y, and Z, what I tell at the beginning, and then actually tell them, explain to them. Again, don't take more than 2 to 3 minutes on each topic because they're going to be bored. And that's it. And then you have the CTA, the call out is very important. If you tell them the limbic opening, the context, the benefits, then the demo or whatever piece of content that actually explain, oh wow, that's actually cool. It actually solved what they told me. It delivers what it promises, and that's it. You don't tell them anything what to do. You lost the opportunity. You have to give them a call to action. Sign up, create an account, what have you, whatever you want them to do at the end. And that's the overall structure that I have when I try to create a piece of content or a video. Now, one thing you have to understand also, and this is something that we talk in the Twitter space, is the developer journey. Like you have to understand in which phase of the developer journey they're at. And that probably is going to answer to you the context of the questions. Where will they use this feature? Under which circumstances? How do they currently perform this task? Depending on the developer journey, you will know where they're at. So you will know what benefits you have to tell them, and which and how you should approach the content you're going to be telling. So long story short, use that structure. Your videos and content shouldn't take more than 5 to 7 minutes to digest. And if it takes more than that, break it down. Create a series. You think you're not going to be able to go through everything you have to explain, make it a series, create 3 videos or 3 articles about a given topic, and using the same structure. And that gives the people the sense of progress. Actually, sometimes I even break things into series, not because I need, but because I give the people the sense of progress. And if you make a video or a piece of content smaller, let's say it takes like 7 minutes to digest, and you make it into a 2 3 minute video or 3 videos, people will have the sense of progress. All right, you just finished this portion. That's great. You can now, put your check box. You now learn this. Now let's move to the next one. Given the sense of progress, really make people feel good. So yeah, in general terms, that's the structure I follow. That's a recommendation I give, and it works. It kind of works for me.
That is really great. Like every time we connect and we talk, I'm always taking notes. So I'm like saving here my notes, like some of the moments that I want to kind of like get back to. Like lately, I've been creating a lot of video content, and I have a little plan, considering the developer journey and like building a roadmap for some creators to get on board and so some Web3 technology. So definitely taking your tips here in consideration. Thanks for that.
Anytime, whatever
And
you need.
last but not least question. I know we are almost maybe
Yeah.
at time already, so not to take too much of your time, but even considering a developer journey, how do you select like the best metrics in platforms to distribute your videos? Like we mentioned TikTok, we mentioned Instagram. I know we also obviously are on X, on YouTube. You guys, whoever is listening to this, probably on Spotify and YouTube as well. So how do you go about selecting the best platform for each one of the series and content pieces, and also which metrics to track? You know.
Yeah. So to answer which platforms, I think that will come from your analysis of where your community is at. It's not, there's no simple solution for, there's no one size fits all. You have to understand where are your people, which platforms they are, and how they're going to find your content. Depends. People might be finding podcasts versus videos in the given company or the given audience you're trying to achieve. Then you have to be there, unfortunately. But in my case, it is videos, because normally people are trying to find tutorials on how to use this platform, because it's a huge platform, and they're trying to solve something. And normally, because again, we have facts that tells that 83% of developers prefer video content over written content when it comes to solving a problem. I know that they are probably looking for YouTube videos. Um, so again, going back to the platforms, you have to make the analysis. You have to spend some time understanding where they at, joining the different groups that your community is at, go to the meetups they go to. Like, you have to do the field work. Unfortunately, if you don't do it, you're going to suck at it. You have to make sure you understand where your community is at. Once you know that, the metrics are really important. And again, I feel that the metrics is something that we're all trying to figure it out. But again, I'm going to go back to the developer journey. It's really hard to measure success if you don't know what success looked like. So depending on what you're trying to achieve with that video. So for example, if for me is awareness, and awareness means the people who didn't know about the platform I'm talking, now they know. And what I want them to do is to click and sign up. Then I have to track if somebody came to the platform from YouTube. That's very easy with UTM codes, and being able to see if they sign up. And then I can see that metric in maybe 3 month percent, like from everybody who watches this piece of content and clicked the sign up, X amount of percent did actually sign up. And then in the platform, we have other ways to track if that person created a data source or create or deployed an application. So that's even further, and I can see the whole journey. And we can see that from the amount of people who watch the video, which are probably a lot, the funnel is very slow, very low. Very low amount of people actually click the button. And from the ones who click to sign up, the ones that actually ended up creating an application are also going to be very low. And that's fine, but you have to work it out. You have to understand what you did wrong, why they didn't um, click on the button, or why they didn't create an account. Was it hard for them? And maybe then you can go back to the product team or to the marketing team or to the support team and say, hey guys, we're doing something wrong. When people sign up, they're not creating an app. And again, this is come back to communication skills, being able to be appealing to work with people, because in DevRel you will have to work with a lot of different people: product team, marketing team, support team, sales team, etc. You have to understand the way they talk and what motivates them. And if your developer journey piece of content you're doing is for growth, then you have to understand, how will I measure this video was success from a growth standpoint? So long story short is, first of all, know where your people are at, then define the developer journey of whatever technology you're trying to work with, and then out of that define how success look like for each of the independent stages of your developer journey, and then find a way to measure that. And there you will have a way to measure success, because for some piece of video, for example, for me, success is getting them subscribed, not getting them to watch, to click on something. And if I get more subscribers out of that video, then I have shifted. But for other videos, is I need them to stay longer in the video, because I'm going to showcase a lot. Is if I don't get them to watch the whole video, because this video is focused on growth, people who are actually users of our platform, and we're trying to get them to grow or buy the business edition, etc. If they don't watch it all alone, they're not going to see the value. So I really need to be nitty gritty about getting them to watch the whole video. I don't care if I have more subscribers out of that video. I really don't care. If only 5 people watch the video, but the average duration is more than 80%, that's success for me. But for other videos, that might not be the case. So again, success looks very different depending on the developer journey, and you have to do that effort, because if not, sometimes you feel you're failing, but you're not. And sometimes you feel you're winning, but you're not. Oh, I'm getting a lot of views, I get a lot of subscribers. Nobody's clicking on your clicks. Nobody is transforming. Nobody is transforming into users. You're not winning. So again, you have to understand how you're going to measure that, the developer journey, and that will tell you what success looks like.
Amazing. Thank you.
That's awesome, Kevin. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate learning from you on how to build better video content, scripts, and strategies considering the developer roadmap.
Right.
And we are very happy to have you today. And thank you all for listening to us. As a reminder, too, we have new podcast episodes coming every Friday, and we also have X Spaces every Wednesday. So we see you there.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much
Kev.
for coming, Danny, Kevin.
No,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. And yeah, find me on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn. If you have questions, more than happy to answer those.
And also in our Discord community. I think out
Exactly.
there as well.
Lead DevRel Discord.
All right. See you guys next Friday or Wednesday if you want to tune in for Space Conversation. Bye,
Bye
all.
bye.
Bye.